wind came first, long before the snow, before the silence that buried the world. There was only the sound of the wind, sharp as bone, endless as the horizon. It whispered through the trees, slipped across frozen lakes, and tore through the hides of shelters that once held warmth and laughter. To the people of the north, it was the first warning. The winter had begun, and it would not end soon. They had seen hard seasons before, but this was different. The sun's path grew shorter each day, dimmer each dawn, as if the sky itself were tiring. The hunters who once walked the plains found no herds. The rivers that once glittered with life now lay entombed in ice so thick it swallowed spears whole. Families huddled around dying fires, feeding them the last of their wood. And when the wood was gone, they burned the bones of the animals that once kept them alive. Across continents, ancient tribes faced the same slow terror. It was not one storm, but 1,000 small ones. A change in the air, a dimming of the light, a turning of the earth that seemed to forget its promise of spring. Some would later call it a volcanic winter, perhaps born from a mountain that had erupted on the far side of the world. Others believed it was a punishment from the gods, or the breath of a sky giant frozen in anger. But no one truly knew. They only knew that the warmth was gone, and that the warmth had always meant life. In caves along the edge of Europe, bands of Neanderthals fought against the cold. Their fires glowed faintly on the stone walls, revealing paintings of mammoths and bison, ghosts of a world that seemed to vanish before their eyes. In the east, small groups of Homo sapiens, modern humans, gathered around the last surviving embers of shared hearths. Their numbers were few, their faces were hollowed by hunger and fear, but they carried something inside them that no cold could extinguish. Memory. Memory of how to adapt, how to imagine. The land was changing in ways no one had words for. Herds of reindeer, woolly rhinoceros, and steppe bison moved south, fleeing the deepening frost. In their wake came the predators, the great cave lions, the dire wolves, and the humans who hunted both. The Ice Age had redrawn the map of survival, and each tribe had to decide: move, adapt, or vanish. Most moved, some vanished, but one tribe stayed. Archaeologists, thousands of years later, would find traces of them in a valley where mountains met endless sky, a place now buried beneath the snows of what we call Central Asia. There, hidden from time, they had built shelters half buried in the earth, lined with moss and fur, shaped to trap what little warmth remained. Their fires smoked black against the frozen air. Their children slept wrapped in animal skins, their breath rising in small clouds. And every dawn, they woke to a world that seemed a little quieter, a little emptier. The elders told stories to keep the fear away. They spoke of the time before the cold, when rivers ran free and the earth smelled of rain. They spoke of the great animals that once moved like thunder across the plains. They will return, the elders said. When the world forgives itself, they will return. But forgiveness, like warmth, came slowly. In this valley, survival became a ritual. The hunters learned to track not with sight, but with sound. The faint crack of ice where an animal stepped, the whisper of wind over fur. The women shaped needles from bone and thread from sinew, sewing garments so layered and tight that they could face the open tundra for hours. The children gathered lichen and bark, learning which could be boiled into a bitter tea that kept fever away. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was taken for granted. Their greatest challenge was not the cold itself, but time. Each day stretched endlessly, marked only by the dim glow of the sky and the slow drift of snow. The tribe learned to measure life not in seasons, but in breaths. Some nights they sang, not songs of joy, but of memory, deep, low chants that echoed off the cave walls like the hum of the earth itself. They believed that as long as they remembered the warmth, it would find its way back. Far away, other tribes began to vanish. Excavations in Europe, Africa, and Asia show sudden gaps in the record. Tools left unfinished, hearths gone cold. Populations shrank to a fraction of their former size. It was as if the earth had pressed pause on human history. Some scientists believe that only a few thousand individuals survived globally during this ancient freeze, a bottleneck from which all later humans would descend. Among them were the people of the valley, the tribe that stayed. One night, a storm unlike any before descended from the mountains. It howled through the valley for 3 days and 3 nights, burying the shelters in white silence. The air itself froze, soundless, absolute. When it finally passed, half the tribe was gone. Those who lived emerged to a world that no longer looked like their own. The trees were bent beneath ice, the river buried, the horizon a seamless sheet of silver and light. And yet, in that unbearable stillness, something shifted. The survivors did not weep. They dug, they rebuilt. They lit new fires from the last coals they had saved inside stone bowls. There was a lesson buried in that act, a lesson that would echo through millennia. Survival is not the opposite of suffering. It is born from it. Centuries later, traces of their resilience would remain. In a narrow band of DNA, scientists found hints of an ancient genetic adaptation, small changes in metabolism, in temperature regulation, in fat storage. These were the signatures of people who had faced the unthinkable cold and endured. Their descendants carried those traces, silent but present, within every heartbeat of the modern world. When you walk in winter and feel your body shiver, it is that same ancient signal, the body remembering what it once survived. The tribe in the valley left no monuments, no cities, no written words. But in their silence, they preserved something greater. Continuity, the unbroken line between what was and what would be. They were not stronger, not faster, not wiser than the tribes that fell, but they did one thing the others could not. They endured together. Imagine them now, a handful of figures against a boundless white plain. The horizon burns faintly with the light of a sun that never fully rises. A child walks beside her mother, her small hand wrapped in fur. The wind catches her hair, lifting it like smoke. Ahead of them, a figure carries a torch, its flame flickering against the endless cold. They are walking toward nothing, yet somehow toward everything. Their footprints press into the snow, one by one, until the trail stretches far behind them. Centuries later, the snow will melt, the valley will bloom again, and those footprints will be gone. But the memory of that walk, of that courage, will remain, written in the veins of their children, and their children's children, all the way to you. Today, when scientists map the great migrations of early humans, they see branching rivers of movement across the continents. Some flowed west into Europe, others south into Africa, others east into Asia and beyond. But every river begins somewhere, with one small stream that refused to freeze. That stream was the tribe that survived the winter that broke all others. The cold shaped them, thinned their ranks, hardened their will, honed their tools. In time, they moved again, carrying with them the lessons of the frost, how to preserve warmth, how to share it, how to imagine the sun even when it cannot be seen. When they reached gentler lands, they built the first long-term settlements, planted the first seeds, and looked once more toward the stars. All of civilization, in some quiet way, began with their endurance. In modern laboratories, researchers still search for traces of that age. They dig deep into cores of ancient ice, into layers of sediment untouched for tens of thousands of years. Each trapped bubble of air tells a fragment of the story, a record of dust, ash, and sudden cooling. Some believe it began with the eruption of a mountain now called Toba in Indonesia, around 74,000 years ago. The eruption filled the skies with ash and sulfur, dimming the sun for years, perhaps decades. If that theory is true, the winter that broke every tribe but one was not a local season, but a global shadow, a true ice veil that wrapped the planet in silence. And yet life continued. Against all logic, all odds, all despair, it continued. That is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. Not that so much was lost, but that anything remained. In the heart of every human being, there is a flicker of that same endurance. We are born into a world far warmer now, with lights that mimic the sun and walls that keep the cold at bay. Yet deep inside, our blood remembers. Our dreams remember. When we light a candle, when we draw closer to others in the dark, when we listen to the wind and feel that ancient shiver of awe, we are echoing the same gestures, the same fears, the same hope that carried that one surviving tribe through the endless winter. We are not separate from them. We are them. If you could stand now where their valley once lay, you would see little evidence of their struggle. Grass sways softly where the shelters once stood. Birds wheel above the ridges that were once white with storm. The air hums with warmth and life. But listen closely, and perhaps you would still hear something beneath the breeze. the faint crackle of a hidden ember, the sigh of a fire long ago. It would tell you a simple truth, that every comfort we hold today was born from their endurance. Every story we tell around a flame began with their silence. They endured so that we could imagine the future. So tonight, as you listen and drift towards sleep, imagine that valley again. Endless snow, endless sky, and one small circle of light in the darkness. A tribe huddled close, breathing together against the wind. The world outside is cruel, but the world within, the one they protect in their stories, their warmth, their hope, that is unbreakable. One child looks into the fire, eyes reflecting the orange glow, and asks the question that has followed humanity ever since. Will spring ever return? And though no one can promise it, an elder places a hand on her shoulder and answers softly, yes, because we will still be here when it does. The snow continues to fall. The stars burn faintly above. The earth turns, slowly, quietly, toward light once more. The winter that broke every tribe but one did not end in despair. It ended in continuity, in the simple act of surviving one more night. And in that survival lies the heart of our species, fragile, enduring, eternal. Close your eyes, hear the wind fade. Somewhere beneath the ice, the earth remembers warmth. Somewhere in the quiet of your own breath, the same ancient fire still burns.